Now I would request Professor P.R. Bhat sir to kindly deliver his lecture. Over to you, sir.
Professor Pradhan and other scholars in the audience, as well as my co-presenters, ladies and gentlemen. This is an attempt, the title I have given, it is not that way so important. The title is the basic structure of Advaita philosophy, some philosophical reflections. Basically, what I have done is taken from Radhakrishnan some insights and other insights from other scholars on Advaita. So it is a kind of well, combining the strength of several thinkers and trying to make room for Advaita as a kind of universally acceptable spiritual approach to liberation. That kind of attempt has been made here, and I would first clarify 2-3 terms, very technical terms, of course. The one is, there's a more problem for the Western students, Western philosophy students, the term idealism. So, I was told, and even now people do say that like that, Advaita Vedanta is absolute idealism. Now, idealism can be taken in two perspectives. In one perspective, which is thought or concept, that kind of perspective. The other perspective is spirit or the experiencer or self perspective from the spiritual dimension. I would like to say that uh, Radhakrishnan talked about idealism in this sense that it is the spiritual that is the core of his Advaita philosophy. The second term that is problematic in the sense that it is misunderstood more often than understood, that is the term knowledge. Again, in the context of epistemology, people do talk about sources of knowledge, pramanas, and pratyaksha, anumana, shabda, and so on up to 6 pramanas are really talked about. Not all schools would accept all these 6, but nevertheless, some schools or the other would be talking about these 6 pramanas. And what is very relevant and very core of the, why you call Advaita or Shankara's Advaita is path of knowledge to the liberation. Now, knowledge here, there is another term which not very frequently used, but nevertheless some scholars have emphasized that Brahmanubhava, that is a kind of experience. The term experience again will be misleading if I simply say experience, because experience is used in the sense object context, pratyaksha, and otherwise internal experience if you want to refer to. But Brahmajnana, of course, some scholars claim that Brahmajnana comes from only Shruti. But Shankaracharya admits even, Brahmanubhava as one of the sources. I would like to argue that the real, knowledge of Brahman comes through Brahmanubhava rather than Shruti. Why do I say so? Let me come to that point. Shruti, of course, normally understood as Vedas and Upanishads. And if we translate it in English, we might call it authority. And if we take it as authority or Shabda, in that it is not only Shruti, that is Vedas and Upanishads, also trustworthy, knowledgeable person. Let us say, in the context of medicines and health, doctor may be an authority, or in the context of philosophy like Advaita philosophy, the Jivan Mukta also will be an authority. So knowledge coming through these authorities are also equally acceptable. Now, the what we have learned through Shruti is Atman is same as Brahman, or Brahman Atman are identical. So this identity is, in my understanding, is heard or read from the text. So in the Western philosophy, we have Russell, for example, who talks about, knowledge by description. So somebody else describes, let's say, what a computer is, and I hear his words, understand it, and he explains to me how you can type in that kind of computer, how you can even talk to somebody or communicate with somebody else through internet and so on. I have this verbal knowledge, let us say. So this is not perception, not realization, nothing of this kind. It is only verbal knowledge. So verbal knowledge, if it is uttered by an authority, it should be trustworthy. So in that sense, through Shrutis, we get to know that there is something or some level, Brahman and Atman are one and the same. Now, this knowledge doesn't give you more than verbal cognition, verbal knowledge, and you have not yourself realized anything or experienced anything except cognitively learning that one and the same thing has two words to refer to it. One is Atman, another is Brahman. So, this verbal knowledge, according to me, is limited only at the cognitive level, hearsay kind of thing, but doesn't give any authentic knowledge which Brahmanubhava can give you. So, this is at the verbal level, and of course, G. Moore also gave in a different context simple notion he talked about. Yellow is a simple notion. He says physicists can give you wavelength, this, that, scientifically can explain what is yellow color. But what you know is only verbal knowledge again there. And real knowledge comes only when you experience yellow patch color. So that he would call, so the verbal knowledge of wavelength, etc., doesn't give you the quality of what yellow is. You have to experience to understand it. He said it in a different context, of course, but similar idea that knowing something personally through experience could be different from just learning verbally. That is the other kind of, yeah. Now the question has been raised in the literature, in Advaita literature, whether Brahmanubhava is a pramana. My simple answer is it cannot be, because in all the pramanas there are means of learning something. So in fact, pramanas themselves can create problem. In the phenomenal world, that is what is Maya we talk about in Advaita. In Advaita, you can have misperception like rope snake example or silver shell example, etc. So this particular misperception because of defective means or not conducive environment or the distance may be too much. So whatever the reasons are, we might conclude habitually looking at a certain rope as snake, because snake also is longish and rope also is longish, and if the adequate light is not there, we, because maybe psychologically we have the fear of snake, grass is around, etc. So you might be frightened. So you might mistake something to be a rope to be a snake and so on. This, if you closely examine with the proper light, everything going closer maybe, or maybe conducting some experiments, throwing a stone at it, whether it moves or whatever. So there are ways of finding out. So error in perception in the phenomenal world, its correction also is using the perception only. You are not knowing, coming to know that it is not a snake from verbal testimony. An authority watchman or somebody who is around, he need not have to tell you that no, 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 that is not a snake, it is a pipe or rope or something of that kind. You have to experience yourself, experience it again, and come to the conclusion it is not a snake, it is rope. Similarly, any other error in perception, or and even if we are talking about error in anumana, so that also you have to learn that what is the problem. Maybe hetu is not proper one, justified one, and so on. So you can talk about error so far as it comes to the phenomenal world, and so far as you are talking about pramana, knowledge that is generated through pramana, there can be error and so on. When you come to the question of Brahmanubhava, there is no means in between. So no chance of error at all. It is a direct knowledge. Either you have it or you don't have it. If you have it, there is no chance of error at all. So in that sense, I would say that Brahmanubhava has to be kept distinct and unique, and you should not ask the question. In fact, asking the question whether Brahmanubhava is a pramana is an indication you have not understood what is Brahmanubhava. So that very question that debated, there is a long debate, of course. I'm not going through all that. And therefore, this particular raising the question itself is an indication that one has not understood. So Brahmanubhava, if that is the kind of knowledge, certainty, if you are having it, then the theory of error in Advaita seem to be a problem again. For example, anirvachaniyatva, anirvachaniya kyativada. So now this is a kind of, again, a problem as far as I could see. So Maya, while talking about Maya, Maya is Sat, Vyavarika Sat. That is, that something, all of us have that ordinary notion of, reality. See, please look at this. In Advaita, like any other thinker, has the liberty to use the term real in a certain way. That is called, in the Western kind of philosophy, it is called linguistic liberty. In India, of course, we don't talk about it so explicitly. Every speaker of the language has the right to give operational definition or special definition, what he might call the real definition. So Advaitians had the issue about what to call, this kind of reality, that is Vyavarika Sat. So they said that it is not eventually real, because Maya, if you are a realized person, you will not have Maya at all. So that means what? Maya disappears. But Maya is experienced by all the ignorant people. So there comes the question, you know, is it contradictory to say that Maya is Sat as well as Asat? Who would be saying that Maya is Asat? Only those who have realized the Brahman, those who had Brahmanubhava. So if they are saying that Maya is Asat, and if we are saying that Maya is Sat, Maya cannot be both Sat and Asat. It is a contradiction. In logic, Western logic especially, when they say tautology is always true under any interpretation and contradiction is always false under any interpretation. So, following Western logic, we would have concluded Maya is false. But in Advaita, since we are in the Vyavarika level, so it is Sat. So, who will say that it is Asat? It will be, Jivan Muktas or Shankaracharya himself, let us say, or maybe Shruti. So, therefore, there arises the question, who is asking this or who is giving this description that Maya is indescribable? It is the only realized person or Vedas, Upanishads. So, but ordinary person doesn't know that it is asat at all. Because if he thinks that it is asat, then he cannot think of eating his dinner. Because dinner is also Maya, it will vanish. So, for all practical purposes, that's why Nayayikas would call this world real, whereas Advaitins will call this as mithya at a certain level. So, therefore, the question who asks, if you ask that question has no locus at all. Those who are Jivan Muktas need not have to ask this question about Maya, whether it is Sat as well as Asat, because they know it very clearly, it is Asat. So, question doesn't arise. So, indescribability to Maya need not be ascribed at all by anyone, because the people who look at Maya, it is real for them, therefore it is Sat for them. They don't know the transcendental reality at all. So, Nyaya real is Advaita Vyavara Satya. And Advaita real, nobody knows. And even if you know, you cannot use any language to describe that. So that is the kind of situation that we land in. So therefore, this so-called error about the Maya would not arise at all. It will not be an error at all. So only it will be error if at all for Jivan Mukta, who is also knowing Vyavarika Satya as well as transcendental reality. They can say it, but then why should they say it if they know that it is going to mislead? So therefore, there is no occasion to even use uh, this kind of terminology. Indescribable is not necessary, and describable will not harm, because just because Maya is describable doesn't mean that you cannot get liberation at all. So that pramana, knowledge source of using pramana and getting liberation, that is out of the question given the structure of Advaita philosophy. So then of course there is this path to liberation, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Basically, what it is trying to tell you is that you need to not only, you have heard it, now you need to clear all your doubts. So here again and again, Manana, reflect on it, and there will come a time maybe, you are able to have concentration, and then Brahmanubhava might take place. So it is like yogic way. Concentration is eventually the one which will help you to get have Brahmanubhava. So if we take it this way, if this understanding is quite reasonable, then obviously one can talk about the implication of this Advaita philosophy. If spiritualism is the one that you're talking about, it is the knower or the spirit that achieves the Brahmanubhava and gets liberated, and then talks about the other things for humanity. So what is the ethics? The ethics that in Advaita would be that even if you accept purusharthas, that is artha, kama, dharma, moksha, and so on. And what is the function of all this? Artha, kama, moksha, dharma, and moksha. All of them should be in harmony, for the sake of. Kama doesn't mean that be reckless and kill anybody you like and so on. So mind has to be. This is not only Advaita philosophy, almost all, including even Charvaka, Susikshita Charvaka, that you need to be kind, you need to be duty bound, you need to be earning money in a acceptable manner and enjoy, your life. Maybe happiness is the only goal for Charvakas, maybe, but for others who believe in moksha or liberation, even they will say, if you go through them without psychological, Freudian psychological problem. In other words, Buddha had said, don't desire at all. If you desire, you have the problem of suppression, and then, all kinds of complications. Subconscious will start acting on you, and you start behaving like a mad person. So, this is the path within the limit, acceptable way of earning, money, and then leading a ethical life, whatever that ethics might mean to you or to the society. And then, of course, liberation you can achieve, after leading sufficient, uh, yeah, sufficient, there are, of course, people do say that brahmacharya, grahastha, sannyasa last, of course, vanaprastha before that, and so on. So, living in harmony is more important. And then next, in order to live in harmony, you need to care for, environmental ethics. And environmental ethics, these days we understand very much because it is creating havoc. We need to, sort of maybe don't have wars and so on, or don't burn forest, or staple in, Punjab and Haryana and so on. So, if you live in that kind of environmental friendly, caring for earth, caring for other human beings and so on, so you can be living happily. And anyone here in the morning, I had a kind of, note saying that, look, it is Advaita is not a universal religion, but Advaita is universal philosophy, spiritual philosophy. Religion is misunderstood in many ways, and one of the core things will be you have a deity, you will have a deity, and then you have some kind of rituals, this, that, prayers, whatever manner in which you pray. In Advaita, there is no prayer of this kind if you have realized Brahman, because you are free from all the rituals and all kinds of constraints which we generally find in common man. Thank you very much.
Sir, you are pointing that if it is real, then there is no Maya. But many times we are pointing that in Brahman itself there is Maya. So then that means Brahman is not real.
So, those who, I am saying in Advaita, Shankara himself will say that if you have really reached that level of Brahman, then there is no Maya at all for you. Therefore, there is no Maya in Brahman. If you are asking the question that if Maya, what is the status of Maya? It is Shakti. Some people say that it is Shakti of Brahman itself is Maya. So it is one of Brahman itself. So therefore, Brahman cannot have Maya at all in the sense that we will have Maya. So it is we who are ignorance, who are in adhyasa, they will have problem, not Brahman himself. So it is, you have to see from which point of view that, Maya is there in Brahman. So for us, Maya is there in Brahman.
आपने अभी कहा कि ब्रह्मानुभूति एक प्रमाण के रूप में नहीं है, मीनिंग ऑफ नॉलेज। तो जो भी स्वप्रकाशवादी हैं, क्योंकि अगर हम मेटाफिजिकली देखा जाए कि ब्रह्म को अगर हम तत्व मानेंगे तो तत्व के लिए किसी प्रमाण की आवश्यकता होगी। घटपट आदि के लिए हम जैसे एम्पिरिकल उसमें देखते हैं। तो अब ब्रह्म है या शून्यता है या बौद्धों का विज्ञानवाद है, स्वयं में शांतरक्षित कहते हैं यमेव आत्मसंवित्ति तस्य अजड रूपता। जड़ भिन्न होना, चैतन्य रूपता होना ही उसकी आत्मसंवित्ति है। और यहाँ तक कि प्रज्ञाकर कहते हैं कि तस्मात् स्वसंवेदना में द्वैतम अपरस्य अभावात्। तात्पर्य है कि वहां पर प्रमाण प्रमेय है, द्वैत रह ही नहीं जाता, प्रमाण ही स्वयं प्रमेय रूप हो जाता है। यहाँ तक कि वो स्वसंवेदन को अद्वैत कहते हैं, जो कि विज्ञानवादी बौद्ध कहते हैं। तो स्वप्रकाशता में, लेकिन अब कहना क्या है, प्रमाण क्या चाहिए? तो प्रमाण के लिए इसीलिए क्या कहते हैं, वेदांतियों ने कहा कि ब्रह्म वृत्ति व्याप्य है, फल व्याप्य नहीं। फल व्याप्यता से बच गए, क्योंकि अगर वृत्ति व्यापक फल व्याप्य भी बता लेंगे तो घटपट आदि की तरह हो जाएगा। तो यह जो मेरा कहना है, मैं उसमें मेरा कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है, मेरा तात्पर्य यह है कि वहां पर प्रमाण प्रमेय भाव की बात हो ही नहीं सकती है। तो फिर भी कहना है कि उसमें प्रमाण क्या है, तो वो उसी तरह से ही है कि
that is the question by ordinary people, what is the pramana? So once you realize yourself, you won't ask that question at all, because you are already yourself. You don't need to have somebody else to know yourself. So you know yourself. So Atman realizes that he is the Brahman. Once that is happened, for whom you need pramana?
When we say कि मैं प्रोफेसर डीएन तिवारी सर से पूछूंगा कि बनारस के पान का टेस्ट कैसा है, so he will have to tell me, and if he will not tell me, he will say कि खुद खाना पड़ेगा, अब मेरे बस की खाना है नहीं, तो how would I contemplate with this issue? I just want to know, अगर I am not capable to reach that, at least you have to say something about that, and if you cannot say, that thing would not be meaningful at all. So this is the issue. There would again and again this issue will arise that.
So you have not made the distinction between verbal knowledge and experiential knowledge. So even if I tell you what is the, Rasgulla became a debate once, Odisha people saying it is their item and Bengali saying that it is original item from, Bengal. So when this debate went on, we could only read and know it verbally, but reality, who has eaten first or who has made, if you had record, who has made earliest, Bengali sweet, that Rasgulla, then matter would have been over. History would have solved the problem. We didn't know, therefore there was a debate. So verbal knowledge is one, experience knowledge is another.
बस एक लाइन या एक मिनट all these, the entire plurality within Vedanta also, there are very variety and they are clashing with each other, whether it's a Buddhism or Vedanta or anyone, they have internal, वो लड़ाई internal भी करते हैं, बाहर से भी लड़ते रहते हैं। There is a line Chandrakirti has caught. Yad yad yas priyam tat tat tas samachare. जो आपको लगता है अच्छा उसी का आचरण करते हैं, चॉइस फैक्टर। ये जितनी बात है संसार में ये अपनी अपनी चीजें हैं, कि मैं नहीं कर रहा हूं। यद यद यस प्रेम, जिसको जो मार्केट में जाइए, सभी लोग मार्केट में चले मॉल में, तो इसमें से एक भी बता दीजिए कि 100% जो है कुछ एकत्व है, वैरायटी है। इसलिए ये थिंकिंग में भी, ये थॉट कंस्ट्रक्शन में भी, इस सारे आर्गुमेंट्स में भी देखिए। इसलिए आपको अच्छा लगा, आपने पसंद लेकर करिए। कोई परफेक्ट नहीं बनाता है, एक नहीं है। यदि यदि ऐसे प्रेम, आप कहीं भी जाइए, सामान देखिए, मिठाई की दुकान पर जाइए, हम रसगुल्ला खाएंगे जी, हम लड्डू खाएंगे जी, हम जरा गुलगप्पा खाएंगे जी, ये खाएंगे, ये कपड़ा खरीदेंगे जी, ये अजीब वो दे लीजिए। ये चीज है। सवाल यह है कि सोल्यूशन कहाँ से आएगा, कौन देगा? न्याय देगा, बुद्धिज्म देंगे कि अदंत देंगे, शंकराचार्य देंगे, सुरेश्वराचार्य देंगे कि गौड़पाद देंगे कि ये वाली जो है 108 तो आपके जो है उपनिषद है। क्वेश्चन ये है कि फिलॉसफी है कहाँ, फिलॉसफी कैसे स्टेब्लिश होगी? बस ये यदि जाते हैं, दिस इज a very important line I'm telling you.
comment. Okay. I think oh yes.
देखिए सर, अद्वैत वेदांत के बारे में जो कुछ आपका इंटरप्रिटेशन आपने दिया, मैं समझता हूं कि अद्वैत वेदांत की जो टर्मिनोलॉजीज हैं, उस टर्मिनोलॉजीज के तहत अगर हम देखें तो शायद आपकी कुछ प्रश्न आपके व्याख्यान के विरुद्ध खड़े हो सकते हैं। फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं कहूं, पूरे के पूरे भारतीय दर्शन में साधन और प्रमाण इन दोनों को एक मान लिया गया। किसी वस्तु के देखने में हमारा साधन भी प्रत्यक्ष है, और अगर कोई पूछता है कि कैसे आप कह रहे हैं कि ये वस्तु है, हम कहते हैं इसमें प्रत्यक्ष प्रमाण है। तो साधन और प्रमाण इन दोनों को एक साथ हमने करके व्यक्ति को बता दिया कि आपने प्रत्यक्ष किया है, देख लीजिए। उसने मुझसे पूछा कि कैसे आप कह रहे हो, तो हम कह रहे हैं क्या बात कह रहे हैं आप, प्रत्यक्ष ही प्रमाण है इसके बारे में। तो एक तो साधन और प्रमाण इन दोनों की स्वीकार्यता भारतीय दर्शन के प्राय सभी संप्रदायों में हो गई पहले। इसीलिए शायद प्रमाण के संदर्भ में जब भ्रम के सिद्धांत की स्थिति आई, तो हमें प्रमाणवाद की आवश्यकता पड़ी कि हमारा प्रमाण प्रामाणिक है कि नहीं है, उसकी परीक्षा के लिए हुआ है। अद्वैत वेदांत में जिस लेवल की बात की गई है, उस लेवल तक तो प्रमाण की, जहां तक प्रमाण की पहुंच है वहां तक प्रमाण की बात की गई। माया का जहां तक संदर्भ है, जो मैंने समझा है माया को, अद्वैत वेदांत में माया जिस तरह की परिभाषा के माध्यम से उसकी व्याख्या हो रही है, अगर हम लिंग्विस्टिकली अगर देखने की कोशिश करें तो माया एक लॉजिक है, जिस लॉजिक के तहत आचार्य शंकर ब्रह्म और जगत के संबंधों के बीच की व्याख्या करना चाहते हैं। एक सत्य है, दूसरे को मिथ्या कह रहे हैं, दोनों के बीच के संबंध की व्याख्या वो कैसे करेंगे? शायद यह वैसे ही है जैसे हम मानते हैं, जब हम गणित का सूत्र हल करते हैं, जब हमको कोई चीज नहीं मालूम होती है तो हम कहते हैं सपोज देयर इज एन एक्स। तो माया इज समथिंग लाइक देयर इज एन एक्स थ्रू विच वी सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम। तो माया को हमको के दिक्कत हमारी यह है कि हमारी बुद्धि की जो दो कैटेगरीज केवल हमारे पास है, कि या तो दिन होगा या तो रात होगी, तीसरा कुछ नहीं हो सकता। क्यों नहीं हो सकता? जो हम कहते हैं कि शाम हो गई, न रात है न दिन है। क्यों हम कहते हैं कि वो ब्रह्म मुहूर्त है, सुबह है, वो न रात है न दिन है? आखिर ये लॉ ऑफ एक्सक्लूडेड मिडिल की पर जो हमारी बुद्धि काम करती है, शंकराचार्य यही तो बात कह रहे हैं कि ये लॉ ऑफ एक्सक्लूडेड मिडिल से ऊपर जब हम जाएंगे तो ये सारे प्रमाण प्रमेय ये सब समाप्त हो जाएंगे। ये सारे प्रमाण प्रमेय केवल वहीं तक हैं जहां तक लॉ ऑफ एक्सक्लूडेड मिडिल है, अन्यथा ज्ञाते द्वैतम न विद्यते। तुलसीदास कह रहे हैं कि सो जानव जय दे जनाई, जानत तुम्हें हो जाए। तो ये तो जिस लेवल की बात है वहां प्रमाण की कोई गति नहीं है। प्रमाण तो वहीं तक है जहां प्रमाण और प्रमेय इन दोनों का संदर्भ खड़ा होता है। थैंक यू सर।
Yeah, he is saying the same thing. Shall I take? I have something to say. Yeah. See, the language is in such a way that, all the so-called, the so-called Mahavakyas, they are identity statements. And there are always two things that are compared. So in verbally, when you say Tattvamasi, so two things have to be put in sentence and say it is one. So it is the limitation of the language. When it comes to Brahmanubhava, there are no, till you have got the Brahmanubhava, you would have said, yes, I am self, I am trying to know the Brahman, all that you can say. But when you realize that you are Brahman, where are the two things? There are no two things. That is the identity. Identity in experience, not in language. A is A if you say identity in logical identity. Even there, two occurrences of A will be required. This A and this A, one and the same, you are saying. So language, it is the limitation of language where it cannot capture Brahmanubhava at all. That is why you cannot describe Brahman at all. It has, it is the foundation of why only language of human beings even. So that's why, he is very right in saying that you cannot. But, well, Vedas, Upanishads, they have indicated. Don't say they have told. They are authorities. If you grant them authority, believe in that, well, you will have verbal knowledge that there is Atman and Brahman, one and the same. It is only verbal knowledge. That's why Brahmanubhava is needed. Otherwise, Chaturvedis, Trivedis, Dvivedis, all would have been, they have read all these Vedas. They would have all automatically liberated people. Unfortunately, not all of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful lecture.